She says she loves you, but every time she talks, you feel smaller. That's not love, that's erosion. Slow, subtle, almost invisible. It doesn't leave bruises, it leaves questions about yourself, your worth, your strength. You used to stand tall, now you walk on eggshells, just trying not to set her off, trying not to be too much, trying to be easy to love. And here's the truth no one wants to say. Men aren't broken by tragedy. They're broken by what feels normal. The most dangerous manipulation doesn't come with yelling. It comes with softness. It comes with words dressed as concern, as honesty, as just being real. It comes from someone who says they care, while slowly cutting away your voice, your confidence, your clarity. You don't fight back because you don't realize you're under attack. You think you're just working on the relationship. You think this is what mature love looks like. But what if it's not? What if what you're calling love is actually a slow form of psychological control? This is Victory Stoic. And if that hit you in the gut, good. You're finally waking up. You're finally starting to question the words that have been shaping your behavior for months, maybe years. What follows are not insults. They're not obvious. That's the point. They're the kind of phrases that slide under your guard. The kind that make you rethink who you are. Not because they're true, but because they're engineered to make you hesitate, to shrink, to submit. Now, before we go deeper, I need you to do one thing. Like this video. Subscribe to the channel, share it with one man who needs to hear it, and then in the comments, type this: I stand unmoved. 3 words. That's your code. That's your signal that you've been through it, that you see it now, that you're not playing this silent game anymore. And if you've got a story to tell, drop it. One moment, one sentence. One time you heard a phrase that changed how you saw yourself. That's how we rebuild each other. Because men aren't broken by rejection. They're broken by confusion, by mixed signals, by words that cut and heal at the same time, by partners who say, I love you, while slowly convincing you that you're not enough. Stoicism doesn't teach you to hate, it teaches you to see clearly, to remove illusion, to stop hoping that someone's going to treat you better tomorrow and start drawing the line today. This isn't about her. This is about you, your sanity, your strength, your ability to stand in the fire without flinching, not because you're numb, but because you finally understand what's real and what's not. The things that follow are not about bitterness, they're about awareness. And awareness is the first tool of power. Let's sharpen it. Let's begin. Number 1, what kind of man are you? There's a reason this sentence hits like a gut punch. It's not a question, it's an accusation disguised as curiosity. A challenge that doesn't invite an answer, it dares you to lose control. It drags centuries of masculine identity into 5 cold words, and it knows exactly what it's doing. What kind of man are you is a weapon. It's launched when you express a boundary, when you say no, when you're vulnerable, when you're not performing. It comes not just to hurt you, but to make you prove something. That you're tough enough, man enough, not weak. But here's the trap. The moment you start proving, you've already lost. You've been pulled into a performance. You're no longer acting from reason, you're reacting from ego. And that's exactly where control begins. Most men don't even see it happen. 1 second you're calm, the next you're raising your voice, justifying your decisions, defending yourself against an invisible standard you didn't agree to. You're trying to win an argument you should have walked away from. And in that moment, you're no longer stoic, you're no longer sovereign. You're triggered, and that's the beginning of your erosion. Psychologist Dr. Ronald Levant, a leading researcher on the psychology of masculinity, coined the term normative male alexithymia, a condition in which men, due to social conditioning, suppress emotional awareness and expression. When a phrase like "what kind of man are you" is thrown at them, it activates deep-seated shame and confusion, because most men have never been taught what kind of man they actually want to be. They only know the version they've been told not to be. Not weak, not emotional, not soft. So when that image is challenged, they don't respond, they defend. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "If you are pained by any external thing, it is not this thing that disturbs you, but your judgment about it." This is the key. Stoicism isn't about silence, it's about mastering the inner response. When someone questions your identity, the Stoic doesn't react. He reflects, he steps back, he sees the trap and refuses to step into it. Let's take this out of theory and into life. Meet Dan, 42, divorced. Runs a small construction business in Austin, Texas. Dan's strong, disciplined, and works hard. But after his wife left, every new relationship seemed to echo the same pattern. One woman in particular, smart, beautiful, emotionally intense, would, during arguments, hit him with that phrase, "What kind of man are you?" Usually when he was trying to avoid escalating tension, when he wanted a moment to think, when he wasn't reacting fast enough for her liking. At first, he took the bait, he raised his voice, he stormed out, he broke things. Then came the apologies, the guilt, the shame spiral, until he found a Stoic group online and one comment stopped him cold. "Every time you react, she rewrites your story." That day, he decided to stop proving. The next time she said it, he didn't explain. He didn't argue. He looked her in the eye and said, "You don't define that for me." Then he left, not the room, the relationship. The lesson isn't walk away from everyone. It's this. If your identity can be hijacked by a single sentence, then it was never really yours to begin with. Neuroscience backs this up. The amygdala, the brain's threat detection system, reacts the same way to emotional insults as it does to physical danger. A study published in Social Cognitive and Affective Neuroscience, 2012, showed that rejection and social insults light up the same neural pathways as actual pain. That's why phrases like this hurt so much. They hijack the primal survival mechanisms in your brain. But the Stoic doesn't just feel his reaction, he names it, labels it, and by doing so, he reclaims his power. Here's a tool to use at home, the 3-second delay technique. When someone questions your identity, say nothing for 3 seconds. Breathe, observe your urge to react. Then ask yourself silently, is this worth my energy, or is it bait? Most of the time, you'll see it for what it is, a trap in disguise, and you'll smile inside because you didn't flinch. What kind of man are you? You're the kind who doesn't answer to that question, because you already know, and no one gets to redefine that in the heat of manipulation. Not her. Not anyone. Number 2, you never change. Imagine trying to climb a mountain barefoot. Every time you pull yourself up a few feet, someone at the base yells, "You're still at the bottom." No matter how high you go, that voice follows. It doesn't care that your feet are bleeding. It doesn't care that you're climbing alone. It only wants one thing, to make you stop. That's what "you never change" sounds like. Not feedback, not concern. A subtle curse disguised as a sentence, a spell meant to freeze your progress midair. This phrase doesn't strike like lightning, it drips like acid, slowly, steadily. It shows up after you've made real effort, after you've done the work, after you've apologized, after you've improved. But your effort is invisible, because "you never change" is designed to make it so. It's not about your growth, it's about their control. Because if you can change, if you are evolving, then they can no longer justify punishing you for who you were. And some people aren't looking for your progress. They're looking for a reason to keep you small. That's what broke Tyler. Tyler, 39, father of 2, worked his way out of a drinking problem over 6 brutal years. No rehab, no relapses, just raw grit, AA meetings, and an unforgiving mirror. His wife stayed, physically. But every time he missed a detail, forgot a chore, or needed rest, she'd say it. "You never change." Like the 6 years hadn't happened, like the cold nights on the floor, the trembling hands, the empty bottles left behind, meant nothing. At first, he fought back, brought up the milestones, the months of clean time, the sponsor calls, but the more he explained, the more she repeated it. "You never change." Until it cracked something. He stopped going to meetings. He figured, what's the point? If the person he did all this for couldn't see it, why bother? That's when the Stoic in him woke up, not loud, not proud, just awake. And it whispered, "You were never doing this for her. You were doing this for who you want to become." Seneca once wrote, "If a man knows not to which port he sails, no wind is favorable." The Stoic man doesn't measure change by applause. He measures it by trajectory, by alignment with his inner standard, not external opinion. And no phrase aims to derail that more than "you never change." Psychologically, this sentence is a form of global labeling, a cognitive distortion studied extensively in CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy. It generalizes a person's behavior into identity. It doesn't say, "you did this wrong." It says, "you are wrong." According to Dr. David Burns, phrases like this fuel depression, self-doubt, and learned helplessness. The belief that no matter what you do, it won't matter. Sound familiar? Here's the hidden trick. You never change is often said when you've just tried. It's not about what you failed to do. It's about not giving them the result they emotionally demanded. Maybe you didn't react fast enough. Maybe you didn't read their mind. Maybe your tone wasn't perfect. So they say it. Not as a report, but as a punishment. Let's break this down with something more visceral. Change is like planting a tree in a storm. You dig, you bury the seed, and the rain tries to wash it out. You come back every day, hands muddy, praying something will sprout. Then someone walks by, sees the bare soil, and says, "Nothing's growing." That's what this phrase does. It mocks your invisible labor. It spits on the patience required to grow. A Stoic man doesn't argue with the storm. He keeps planting, quietly, repeatedly, because he knows what's buried. Epictetus taught, don't explain your philosophy, embody it. So how do you embody growth when someone keeps denying it? How do you hold your line when someone keeps moving the goalposts? Here's a tip. Keep a personal proof file, one small notebook, or a locked document on your phone. Every time you do something different, better, more aligned with who you want to be, write it down. It doesn't have to be dramatic. Didn't raise my voice today. Chose to walk away from conflict. Read instead of drank. This isn't to convince them. It's to remind you, because when that phrase comes again, and it will, you won't need to debate it. You'll already know the truth. You'll have built a quiet, undeniable archive of progress. When you stop needing recognition, you start becoming dangerous, untouchable, because their words no longer rewrite your story. You become the author again. So when someone says, you never change, they're trying to trap you in a version of yourself that no longer exists. Look them in the eye, or just in your mind, and say, that man's gone, and I don't need your permission to evolve. Change isn't a show, it's a quiet revolution. You owe it to no one, but you owe it to yourself to never stop. Number 3, you're just like your father. There are words that sting, then there are words that open a wound you thought had already healed. You're just like your father isn't an insult, it's a surgical strike to your identity. It doesn't call out your actions. It questions your blood, your roots, your fate. It tells you no matter how far you've come, you're still doomed to become the man you tried to escape. It doesn't matter who your father was. Maybe he left. Maybe he yelled. Maybe he cheated. Maybe he folded under pressure or drank himself into silence. Maybe he hurt people and called it love. Maybe he never said he was proud. Maybe he didn't show up at all. The point is, you've spent your entire life trying not to become him. And now, in a moment of weakness, conflict, or imperfection, someone looks you dead in the eye and says the one thing that hits deeper than anything else. You're him. That sentence doesn't accuse, it declares. It locks you in a past you didn't choose, a name you didn't ask for, and a legacy you never wanted. It doesn't leave room for explanation or growth. It's fatalistic. And worse, it's familiar. See, trauma doesn't echo in volume. It echoes in pattern. When someone says you're just like the man who failed you, what they're really doing is dragging you back into a fight you've already had, just with a different face. You're not arguing with your partner anymore. You're defending yourself from a ghost. And ghosts don't argue back, they haunt. Take Brian, 36, from Nashville. His father was a decorated Marine and an unrelenting tyrant at home. Rage was normal. Praise was foreign. At 16, Brian swore he'd never raise his kids the way he was raised, and for the most part he didn't. But one night after a long day, his voice cracked during an argument with his wife. He snapped, not violently but sharply. She looked at him and said, "Wow, you sound just like your dad." Silence. It didn't matter that he'd never hit anyone, never abandoned his family, never repeated the patterns. In one sentence, she stripped years of self-discipline, therapy, and emotional labor, and pinned him back to the very man he was terrified of becoming. Brian didn't sleep that night. Not because of the fight, but because of the fear. What if she's right? What if I haven't changed at all? That's the danger of this phrase. It doesn't just challenge your behavior, it attacks your direction. It doesn't just question your moment, it questions your entire trajectory. It throws a match into your deepest insecurity, then stands back and watches what burns. But the Stoics teach something radical. Epictetus said, "You are not your parents. You are not your circumstances. You are your choices. Your lineage is not your destiny. Your history is not your ceiling. Yes, your past shaped you, but it does not own you. Only your present actions do." From a psychological perspective, this phrase triggers identity confusion and learned helplessness. According to Dr. Bruce Lipton's research on epigenetics, while our environment and upbringing heavily influence our patterns, we are not biologically locked into our past. We can interrupt inherited cycles through conscious action. But phrases like, "You're just like your father," can reactivate those old narratives and make you believe you never really broke free. Here's the deeper truth. The person saying it knows exactly what they're doing. They know that line isn't casual. They say it because they want to shake you, to make you doubt. Maybe to win an argument, maybe to punish you, maybe just to hurt you. And if you react with anger, defensiveness, or shame, they win. So what do? You ground yourself. When that phrase lands, don't fight it. Don't justify. Don't unpack your childhood. Just breathe. Remind yourself, I am not my past. I am not his failures. I am not what someone else sees in a moment of conflict. I am what I choose today. Repeat that as many times as needed. The past is not your identity. It's a reference point, not a roadmap. And here's a practice to make that real. Build a break the pattern list. Write down the specific ways you are not like the man you fear becoming. It can be as simple as, I apologize, he didn't. I'm present, he wasn't. I listen, he yelled. Keep this list close. Read it when that ghost creeps back in through someone else's words. That's not ego, that's clarity. You're just like your father is meant to pull you into an identity that isn't yours. But you're not here to live someone else's unfinished story. You're here to write your own. Stoicism doesn't ask you to deny the pain. It demands that you rise above it, quietly, unshakably. Not to prove them wrong, but to prove yourself right. You are not his echo. You are your own voice. Let it speak. Number 4, no one else will ever love you. There are knives made of silence, and then there are knives made of words, curved perfectly to slip between your ribs and carve out whatever strength you have left. No one else will ever love you as that kind of blade. It doesn't shout, it whispers, and the more you believe it, the more it owns you. It sounds like a warning, but it's a sentence to a smaller life, to emotional captivity, to the slow death of self-respect. It says this is the best you'll ever get, even if what you're getting is barely love, or not love at all. That phrase doesn't aim to hurt you immediately. It aims to settle in, to become the background music of your decisions. You hear it when you consider leaving. You hear it when you're alone in your car. You hear it when someone actually shows you kindness, and instead of accepting it, you pull away because you've been taught you're not lovable. Not really. What's brutal about this line is not just what it says, but when it's used. It's never used when you're strong. It's used when you're already second-guessing yourself, when you've lost some of your fire, when you're trying to grow, to speak up, to take back space, and suddenly there it is. No one else will ever love you. Like a hand around your throat. Not tight enough to kill, just tight enough to make you stay. And let's be honest, it works. You start making excuses. Well, every relationship has problems. It's not always bad. Maybe I'm just too much. You settle. You shrink. You accept disrespect packaged as patience, all because one sentence made you think you're not worth more. Let me be clear, this is abuse, not physical, not always loud, but psychological, strategic. It's meant to isolate, to wear you down, to make you think your options are limited and your value is conditional. That kind of thinking isn't love. It's emotional captivity. Eli, 41, from Chicago, knows this all too well. He was 6 months out of a job after corporate downsizing. He was trying to hold things together, doing freelance gigs, applying, staying sober. His partner, instead of supporting him, started dropping little lines. A real man wouldn't be unemployed this long. Other women would have left by now. And then the nuke. No one else will ever love you, not with your baggage. He stayed for another year, not because he didn't want better, but because he no longer believed he could get it. That's the trap. This line makes you see yourself through the eyes of someone who wants to keep you smaller than you are. And when your self-worth shrinks to the size of their approval, you've already lost the battle. Stoicism offers a way out, but not through rage, not through revenge, through sovereignty. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "It is not the things themselves that disturb us, but our judgments about them." What Stoicism teaches is that no external voice, no matter how intimate, gets to define your intrinsic worth. When someone says no one else will love you, what they're really saying is, I need you to believe this, so you won't leave me. And the Stoic answer? I don't need to be loved to be free. You don't conquer this sentence by screaming back. You conquer it by remembering that love that is only available under submission is not love, it's manipulation. You break its spell by reconnecting to something more powerful than external approval, your own internal standard. Here's a practical exercise. List your non-negotiables. In your phone or journal, write down the basic conditions of how you deserve to be treated. Respect, honesty, space, care, calm. The next time someone threatens your worth, measure their behavior against your list, not your loneliness. If they fall short, they're not your fate. They're your lesson. And when the fear creeps back in, that whisper saying you'll be alone forever, respond the way a Stoic would. So be it. Better to walk alone in dignity than lie beside someone who needs you to feel worthless to stay. Better to face solitude with a clean soul than to rot in comfort bought by silence. Because real love is not earned through suffering. It does not arrive only after you prove you're fixable. It does not require you to stay smaller than your potential. You are not hard to love. You are hard to control, and that's why they said it. Let them say it again, let it echo, and then let it fade, because you are no longer listening. Number 5. My ex never acted like that. This one doesn't yell, it slices, clean, precise, and it leaves you bleeding in silence, not because of what she said, but because of what it awakens in you. Comparison, competition, contempt for yourself. My ex never acted like that. She doesn't scream. She just drops it, casually, surgically, often during a moment when you're trying to set a boundary, explain a feeling, or simply be human. You were trying to be honest, to show up as yourself. Now suddenly, you're not just in this relationship, you're auditioning against a ghost. That sentence doesn't land on your ears, it lands on your masculinity. It says someone else was better. Someone else didn't make this mistake. Someone else didn't need as much, didn't feel as much, didn't ask for as much. You hear it and you don't argue with her. You argue with the image of someone you've never met. And in doing so, you lose yourself. This isn't a real comparison. It's a control tactic. It's not about her ex. It's about getting you to feel lesser, so you'll fight for her validation. She doesn't want resolution. She wants to see if you'll scramble, if you'll perform, if you'll shrink your authenticity just to match the phantom standard she just made up on the spot. Let's break it down. Comparison is a form of leverage. It tells you there's a scoreboard you didn't know you were playing on. And the rules? She gets to decide them. If you're stoic, you're cold. If you're emotional, you're weak. If you take time to respond, you're distant. If you respond quickly, you're reactive. But her ex? Oh, he was just right. Of course he was, until the day he wasn't. But that part never makes the highlight reel. John, 34 from Phoenix, lived this cycle. His girlfriend would bring up her ex during every argument. He never raised his voice. He knew how to comfort me. He made me feel safe. The irony? She'd left that ex for being too passive. But John didn't see that. All he heard was that he was failing a test he didn't study for. So he tried harder, spoke softer, let more things go, shrunk himself inch by inch to become someone else's ghost. Until one day, sitting alone after another exhausting conversation, he asked himself, if I win this competition, what do I get? Her approval or the loss of myself? That was the moment he stopped playing. Stoicism doesn't teach you to hate comparison. It teaches you to rise above it, to see the trap and step around it. Marcus Aurelius wrote, ambition means tying your well-being to what other people say or do. Self-indulgence means tying it to the things that happen to you. Sanity means tying it to your own actions. So what's the Stoic response when someone tries to weaponize their past against you? You don't defend, you don't match, you don't perform. You simply remember, I am not here to outdo a ghost. I am here to be honest, consistent, and aligned with who I am. From a psychological standpoint, this phrase triggers social comparison theory, Festinger, 1954. Which suggests people determine their worth based on how they stack up against others. But this becomes toxic when the comparison is manipulated, when you're told you're losing in a game you never agreed to play. So how do you break the pattern? Practical tip: when this phrase shows up, ask a simple question. Why are we talking about your ex right now? Say it calmly, without heat. This flips the dynamic. It stops the spiral and demands accountability. If she dodges the question, you already have your answer. This wasn't about them. It was about control. And if you find yourself comparing yourself to her past on your own, here's the move. Write down 3 ways you're showing up that matter to you, not to her. Not to win, but to stay aligned. Examples: I speak the truth. I don't withhold love when I'm hurt. I show up even when I'm tired. This is your anchor, because love built on comparison is not love. It's performance. If you have to outshine a ghost to be seen, then you were never truly seen at all. Your worth isn't proven by outmatching her ex. It's confirmed by your refusal to compete for someone who weaponizes their past to control their present. Let the ghost win. You've got better battles to fight, ones that actually lead somewhere real. Number 6. I only said that because I love you. She ruins your night, then tells you she cares. She cuts you open, then calls it closeness. The phrase "I only said that because I love you" is not affection, it's an alibi. A twisted piece of rhetoric used to wash blood from the blade while you're still bleeding. You know the pattern. It starts in a moment that should have been safe. A celebration, a beginning. New Year's Eve. You're standing next to her, maybe watching the countdown, thinking this might be the year you both get it right. Then, without warning, it starts. She brings up something from months ago. Something you thought was over. She says you're selfish, cold, distant, uncaring. She brings up your job, the way you look, the way you parent, the way you breathe. And she says it all like she's not holding a match on a pile of trust. You freeze. You try to de-escalate. You're stunned that the night is unraveling like this. Then after the damage is done, after she's cried, screamed, thrown words like grenades, she softens her tone and delivers the line, "I only said those things because I love you." As if affection justifies assault. As if her rage was intimacy. As if your pain is somehow proof that she cares. This is not love. This is gaslighting wrapped in sentiment. It's manipulation, repackaged as vulnerability. It's meant to confuse you, so you stop trusting your reaction, your pain, and your sense of what's okay. And worst of all, it works. Because love is the one thing men will tolerate almost anything for. Say you hate me, I'll walk. But say you love me while you hurt me, and I'll hesitate. I'll explain it, excuse it, internalize it. And that's the trap. When someone uses love as an excuse for damage, they're no longer talking about your well-being. They're protecting their image. They want the freedom to harm you without being labeled the villain. And if you challenge them, you're not just arguing the facts anymore. You're now questioning their love. That's psychological blackmail. A weapon dressed as a compliment. Stoic philosophy doesn't fall for that. Seneca wrote, "A sword never kills anybody. It is a tool in the killer's hand." The Stoic sees the separation between intention and action. Love is not an excuse. Motive does not erase damage. You may feel something deeply, but if that feeling manifests as verbal abuse, control, guilt-tripping, or public humiliation, it is not love in practice. It's chaos. And calling it love doesn't cleanse it. Chris, 38 from Denver, lived this cycle for 4 years. His girlfriend had a pattern. Every holiday, every birthday, every big moment, she'd find a way to sabotage it. Not through physical abuse, through sharp, sudden verbal strikes. On his 40th birthday, during a dinner he spent weeks planning, she whispered across the table, "You're pathetic. You think this makes up for the way you've been all year?" He was stunned, silent, ashamed in front of friends. She left halfway through the night. Later that week, she texted, "I only said it because I love you, and I hate seeing you pretend." He almost apologized. He almost said sorry for making her feel that way. That's how powerful the spell is. Turn the hurt into care, the poison into healing, the slap into a hug. But the Stoic doesn't argue spells. He breaks them with clarity. Here's what you do when this line shows up. You name the behavior, not the emotion. You don't argue whether she loves you. That's not the point. You say, "Calling me worthless in front of others is disrespect, regardless of how you feel." You anchor the conversation in conduct, not sentiment, because love that hurts and never takes accountability is not love. it's a liability. Psychologists call this tactic abusive affection. It's when someone pairs harmful behavior with positive reinforcement to blur the lines of acceptability. Dr. Beverly Engel, an expert in emotional abuse, writes, "One of the most effective ways abusers maintain control is by making the victim doubt the abuse is even happening. When they follow cruelty with affection, your brain short-circuits. You stay not because you like the pain, but because you're constantly being told it wasn't really pain." And here's the deeper cut. Men are rarely allowed to say they feel emotionally abused. Society expects you to be unshakable. So you endure, you take it, you rationalize it. But no amount of stoicism should mean becoming a punching bag. Silence is not strength when it enables damage. Your emotional boundaries must be as firm as your physical ones. Practical move. After an incident where this phrase is used, don't debate love. Write down exactly what was said to you. Keep a private record. Read it back the next day, objectively. Would you let someone say that to your brother, your son, your best friend? If the answer is no, then the follow-up "I love you" doesn't matter. Because real love is not about saying the words. It's about creating a space where the words don't contradict the reality. "I only said it because I love you" is not an apology, it's a distraction. Love is not a license to wound, and anyone who needs to hurt you to feel close to you isn't offering love, they're offering control. Don't argue, don't yell, don't defend, just decide. Love must be proven in peace, not just proclaimed after war. Number 7, I'm not forcing you, it's your choice. No threat, no scream, no direct demand, just a calm, well-timed statement that sounds so reasonable you almost believe it, until you look around and realize everything in your life that mattered is gone, and the only thing left is her. That's not a choice. That's a corner painted in soft tones and called love. "I'm not forcing you. It's your choice" is one of the most refined forms of emotional manipulation. It hands you the steering wheel of a car she already locked into a single lane. It keeps her hands clean while your world narrows to fit hers. And when you finally look up, after you've pulled away from your friends, skipped holidays with family, declined opportunities that made her uncomfortable, you realize the one thing you were supposed to control was the one thing she'd been guiding all along. You. This sentence is surgical in its subtlety. It doesn't come when you're defiant. It comes when you hesitate, when your gut says no, but her silence says you better. When she doesn't ask you to cut off your friends, but reminds you how drained she feels when you hang out with them. When she doesn't demand you skip your mom's birthday, but says she'll just stay home alone since she doesn't really feel welcome there. Then you make the choice. You stay. You cancel. You comply. And when your life begins to shrink, she simply says, "I never forced you." This is control by proxy. Power without fingerprints. And for a man trying to keep peace, trying to hold a relationship together, trying not to be that guy who prioritizes others over his partner, it works devastatingly well. Let's talk about James, 43, from Atlanta. He was a quiet, loyal guy, big on loyalty. When his girlfriend started dropping hints that she didn't vibe with his 2 oldest friends, too immature, don't support your growth, he pulled back. Then came the comments about his sister. "She's cold to me. I feel judged around her." Before long, family dinners became solo visits, then stopped altogether. He started turning down camping trips, late-night calls, even lunch with his mentor. None of it was forbidden, it just slowly disappeared. And every time he questioned it, she said the same thing. "I never asked you to cut anyone off. You made your own choices." By year 3, James's life was a small orbit. Her friends, her routines, her world. When they finally broke up, she told him, "You were always too isolated. That's not my fault." That's the final cut. Strip your life down, blame you for the emptiness, then walk away. The Stoics don't fall for illusions of choice. Epictetus wrote, "No man is free who is not master of himself." Choice, real choice, must be made in freedom, not under emotional coercion. When your options are narrowed by guilt, pressure, emotional withdrawal, or passive-aggressive framing, it is not a choice. It's a sentence passed with a soft smile. Psychologically, this tactic is a form of plausible deniability, a term more often used in politics and law, but devastating in personal relationships. It means she maintains deniability of influence while shaping your actions completely. And in clinical psychology, it ties to coercive control, a pattern of behavior designed to isolate, dominate, and remove autonomy under the guise of partnership. Here's where Stoicism offers you armor. You reclaim clarity. You recognize that peace at the price of your identity is not peace, it's paralysis. You remember that your time, your relationships, your voice, your no, they matter. A Stoic man doesn't let someone else's discomfort redefine his values. He doesn't surrender his tribe to buy short-term harmony. He doesn't trade deep roots for shallow approval. And most importantly, he does not apologize for protecting his full life. So what can you do when this tactic shows up? Here's your move. Practice the reverse permission filter. Whenever you hear, "It's your choice," ask yourself one question. If I made the choice she doesn't want, what would happen next? Would she guilt trip you? Withhold affection? Go cold? Start a fight? If there's a penalty for choosing freely, then it was never a real choice. And if your answer is yes, if you're already sacrificing the things that make you whole, start rebuilding. Call the friend, text your brother, book the flight home. Reclaim one relationship she made you question. Do it not out of spite, but out of alignment. Because when you're with the right person, your world expands, it doesn't shrink. Let her say it again, "I didn't force you." Let her hold her clean hands up. But you'll walk away knowing that clarity isn't found in avoiding blame. It's found in choosing truth. No is a complete sentence. Use it. Conclusion: they don't need to raise their voice. They don't need to use their fists. All they need is the right sentence, delivered at the right moment, with the right amount of silence after. That's how it starts. Not with violence, but with erosion. They don't destroy you by force. They make you question yourself until you do the job for them, until you edit your words before speaking, until you apologize before checking if you even did anything wrong, until you become a quieter, smaller version of yourself, polite, agreeable, exhausted. And then they say, "You've changed." Here's the truth. People don't use these phrases because they're honest. They use them because they're effective, because they get results, because each line is a hook designed to pull you into compliance, to keep you explaining, chasing, proving. But a Stoic man does not explain who he is to someone weaponizing confusion. He does not chase approval that comes at the cost of his spine. Epictetus warned us thousands of years ago. If you want to be free, learn to disregard the opinions that enslave you. That's not a call to apathy. That's a call to clarity. Clarity about what love is, what power is, what you're actually responsible for, and what you're not. The world is full of well-dressed manipulation, of concern that controls, of honesty that humiliates, of love that silences. Stoicism doesn't tell you to become cold. It tells you to become unshakable. Not by hiding your heart, but by holding your line. Not by dominating, but by refusing to be dominated through emotional sleight of hand. So what now? Start here. Like this video. Share it with a man who needs to hear it. Subscribe to Victory Stoic. This is where we strip the lies away and sharpen the mind. In the comments, drop your signal, "I stand unmoved." Those 3 words are more than a mantra. They're your mark. Your refusal to flinch. Your line in the sand. And if one of these phrases hit too close, say so. Share the moment, the line that cut deep, the night you stayed silent when you should have walked. You're not the only one, and your voice might be the one that helps another man wake up. Thank you for listening, for thinking, for staying with this video. These aren't just words, they're chains, but only if you wear them, only if you don't name them. And now, you've named them. That's the beginning. Walk away not harder, but clearer. Walk away not louder, but heavier, with truth. And above all, walk away standing up straight.